Hello, welcome back to Rooted in Relationship, when managing behavior isn't working. I am your host, PCI Certified Parent Coach, Raelee Peirce. I want to start today's episode with a little picture in your mind. So close your eyes if you can, not if you're driving. If you're driving, keep your eyes wide open, but imagine this with me. A little boy, maybe 3 or 4 years old. His name is Braden. He's standing in his mama's arms, and she is giving him one of those big, long, cozy hugs, the kind where you just sink in, the kind where time stops for a minute. Braden is wallowing in it. He's getting filled all the way up. And then out of nowhere, with his little cheek pressed against her shoulder, he says, "Mommy, when you hug me, I feel like I could fly." Oh my gosh. I mean, come on, that line. That is a whole parenting philosophy wrapped up in one sentence. And it comes from Dr. Gordon Neufeld, who is my mentor. He's a Canadian developmental psychologist. And pretty much everything I share with you on this podcast is rooted in his work. I'm a student of his through the Neufeld Institute. And today's episode is going to bring you one of his biggest, most beautiful ideas: emergence. After today, I'm going to let Dr. Neufeld take a back seat, and we're going to talk about how this actually plays out in real parenting life with real stories from real parents I'm coaching right now. Names changed, of course. I would never throw my clients under the bus. So let's dig in. Okay, so what is emergence? Emergence is the word that we use for that beautiful energy inside a child that wants to become, wants to grow, wants to try, wants to venture out into the world and discover who they are. It's the spring inside them that pushes a flower up through the dirt. When a child has emergence, you can feel it. They're curious, they're interested in things, they come up with their own ideas. They fill their quiet time with drawing or building or playing pretend. They seek out new things. They have a little spark in them that says, "I am someone. I have ideas. I'm here." And I want to tell you something that might surprise you. We cannot make this happen. We can't. We can't push a child into being curious. We can't force a child into being creative. We can't teach a child to be original. In fact, Dr. Neufeld says when we try to reward or push curiosity, it actually shrinks. It disappears, like a little turtle pulling its head back into its shell. So what's our job then? If we can't make emergence happen, what do we do? Here's the gift of this whole developmental approach. Our job is to create the conditions where emergence can grow on its own. Like a gardener, you don't pull on the flower to make it bloom faster. You tend the soil, you water it, you keep the weeds out, you let it rest, and one day there's a bloom. That's parenting. Now you might be thinking, "Okay, Raelee, that sounds lovely, but my child is literally refusing to get out of the car for ballet class right now. So can we just please get practical?" Yes, we're going there, I promise. In fact, okay, that's exactly where we're headed. Okay, so I want to tell you about a mom. I'll call her Maggie. Maggie is thoughtful, loving mom. She has a little girl named Logan. And Logan, who's 4, and getting ready for kindergarten in the fall, and a little early, like she's kind of thinking that Logan's ready for kindergarten. So she might be a little young to be in kindergarten because mom is thinking that she really wants her to be in kindergarten. That's an interesting thing too. And Maggie came to one of our sessions all kind of tangled up about 2 things that we talked about. Turned out to be the same thing. The first thing, Logan's ballet class was not going well at all. Maggie had actually switched Logan from her first class because Logan had recoiled from the older teacher. The second class, it was a smaller group, seemed like a fresh start. The first week, Logan ran right in. Maggie's heart was soaring, right? And then halfway through, Logan had a meltdown because she got frustrated with herself on an activity. She finished the class strong. She seemed to be enjoying it. But on the way home, she said clearly, Mama, I don't want to go back. The next week, Logan planted her little feet and would not even go into the room. She wanted to go home, period. The teacher came out and was very kind and said, oh, this is really normal for her age. Sometimes kids are resistant, and then suddenly they flip a switch and they're in. So Maggie coaxed Logan in by letting her treat the ballet studio like an indoor playground, just run around. And Logan did. She ran, she had fun. And then walking out, Logan looked up at her. Mama, I don't want to go back. So Maggie was confused. She was saying to me, Raelee, I don't understand. She had fun. Why won't she just keep going? And then Maggie told me the second thing that was tangling her up. She was anxious about kindergarten, not about whether Logan was ready, although I'm thinking about that, but more about herself letting go, trusting strangers, not being able to control what happens to her child every minute of the day. And she admitted something really brave. She said, I think I'm pushing the ballet class because I want evidence that Logan will be okay in kindergarten. I want proof. I want to see her survive it so I can tell myself she'll survive going to kindergarten early too. Oh, Maggie, I love her. I told her what I'm going to tell you now because I think a lot of us do this, myself included. I also wanted my child to go to kindergarten early when she was 4. I also wanted her to do things on her own, to be more independent. I fell into that same trap. So we think if we can just kind of expose our child to enough stuff, they'll be ready for school, ready for friends, ready for life. And we think the exposure is the thing that builds readiness. But here's the truth. Emotional maturity doesn't get taught. It unfolds. It unfolds from rest. It unfolds from connection. It unfolds from a child feeling so deeply safe and seen and understood that their little spirit says, okay, I'm full. I can try something new now. When we push a child into a class they're resisting, when we stand outside the door coaxing them in, we're not building readiness. We're creating unrest. We're filling their little cup with stress instead of safety. And when the cup is full of stress, there's no room left for curiosity. There's no room left for, I want to try. There's only room for, I want to go home. I told Maggie something else, and I want to share it with you too. I said, you're trying so hard to prepare Logan for kindergarten, and I love that. That's a mama's heart doing what mama hearts do. But here's the thing. The best preparation for kindergarten is not more activities. It's not more groups of strangers. It's not more practice being away from you. The best preparation for kindergarten is a child who is deeply, deeply connected to you. Because a child who is at rest, who knows in her bones that her mama is her safe place, that child can venture out. She can walk into a new classroom. She can meet a new teacher. She can try something hard and then come home and tell you about it. And you can hold her while she cries. And then she goes back the next day and tries again. But a child who isn't at rest, a child who's anxious and stressed and feeling pushed before she's ready, she's going to cling to you. She's going to resist. She's going to recoil. She's so busy trying to manage her own alarm that she has nothing left for learning or for friendship or for play. So what did I tell Maggie to do? I said, you have permission to let the ballet class go. There was a little relief there, but I could see, that she also was really wanting her child to do this. There's a part of us that wants our child to be independent because that's so valued culturally. It's so valued by all of our friends and our grandparents to see, look what little Logan is doing. Look what she's capable of, right? And there's this other thought that she had too. And she was thinking, am I overcorrecting? Like she thought about her own mom and how her mom forced her into things, right? Just said, you're going to ballet, and closed the door and let her deal with all those big feelings and not being ready, but had to be ready, had to perform. And she remembers hating that. And she thought, have I become too soft by, kind of being there in the class and trying to coax her and having all these conversations with her and all of that. And I'm not being clear enough. I'm not just letting, down the law here. It's such a good question. So many of us are parenting against our own childhoods. We're trying so hard not to do what was done to us that we wonder if we're going too far the other way. So here's what I told her, and I want you to hear it too. You're not making your child independent by pushing them out. Nature is going to do that work. Your job is to tend the roots. Nature's going to grow that fruit. Independence is a fruit. Curiosity is a fruit. Courage is a fruit. Resilience is a fruit. We cannot make any of these things happen in a child. We can only create the conditions. We tend the soil, we water it, we protect it, then we trust. We must be the patient gardener. And when we do push and they do go to the class and they do look, quote unquote, independent, there could be an element here that this is performance, this isn't true, this isn't real, this is a performance. And we need to think about that too, that are we demanding performance because we're demanding on a level obedience, asking our child to pretend that they're ready when they're not. So let me also tell you about Logan's mama and something else she noticed. She told me that Logan acts differently depending on which parent is with her. When Maggie takes her to the doctor for a shot, Logan cries, she sobs like the world is ending. And when Maggie's husband takes her for a shot, Logan barely reacts, acts like nothing happened. And Maggie was like, what's going on with that? Does she, like him more? Why is she so much calmer with him? And I said, oh, mama, no. Here's what's happening. And I think every primary caregiver needs to hear this. Your child saves her biggest, ugliest, most vulnerable feelings for you because you are her safe person, her safest person. Her nervous system knows deep down, way below words, that with mama, she can fall apart and still be loved. She can cry hard and still be held. She can be her whole self and not lose the connection. With other people, even beloved people like her daddy, her little brain is doing a tiny bit of work to stay connected. She's conforming a little. She's holding it together a little. Maybe with, grandma, or maybe at school with the teachers, right? They act differently in these places, not because they love you less, but because their nervous system is working harder to maintain those bonds with those caregivers. They don't know if that teacher, that grandparent, that other parent will be able to hold all of their big feelings, their true self, their big, vulnerable, ugly parts of themselves. So when your child holds it together all day at preschool or at school and then falls apart the second you walk through the door, that's not manipulation. That's not, so many parents are like, oh, they were fine. And then they just burst out. They're fakers. They're fakers with that big cry. No. That's a compliment. That's your child saying, finally, my safe person, I can let it out now. I can kind of share with you my hard day, being away from you, being separate. This is the gift of being the primary attachment. It's Ooh, also exhausting. I know, I've been there. But it is a sign, a beautiful, frustrating, exhausting sign that you are doing the deepest work of parenting. You are your child's home base. I want to just share another client story because I know some of you are thinking about the nighttime hours. And I want to, we're going to get practical, right? So I'll call this dad Jamal. Jamal told me his son Eric was drinking a glass of water before bed and he spilled a little on his pajama shirt. And it wasn't a lot, just enough to make his shirt feel wet, and Eric started to melt down. And Jamal was trying to be a good dad. He was saying things like, "Buddy, it's not a big deal. It's just water. It's going to dry. It's late. We need to get to bed." I'm making some good points here, right? Good points. Yes, yes. I said, Jamal, Eric isn't upset about the shirt. Eric is tired. Eric has used up every drop of his emotional energy today, and he has nothing left. And the wet shirt was the thing that broke him. It's the canary in the coal mine. The goal in that moment isn't to win that argument about the shirt and how it wasn't a big deal. The goal is to bring Eric to rest. Let him have his tears, right? Let him have this be the breaking moment and shed all the stress of the day. No one brings themselves to rest, not even us. Have you ever tried to calm yourself down when you're flooded and stressed? It's really hard. It's actually, very challenging. We tend to need another person. Like we call someone, we need connection. Like we go to our partner, oh my gosh, I had such a terrible day, and we kind of relive the terrible moments. And if we have a great partner, they will not get upset with us or try to reason with us or try to fix anything. They will literally take us and hold us and say, "I am so sorry. That sounds terrible. You had an awful day, and that was so not okay." Because we need warmth. We need someone to look at us and say, "Oh, that was rough. Come here." Now, if that's true for us as grown-ups with all our coping skills and all our journaling and our deep breathing, how much more true is it for our kids? There's a whole world out there right now telling our children to self-regulate, to self-soothe, starting in babyhood. No, taking deep breaths, to use their words, to name their feelings. And I'm not saying any of those tools are bad. We talk about some of those tools. They're not. But they're not actually the first step. They are the fruit. The first step, the root, is a child being held in relationship with a calm, warm adult to express, to be able to, the first step in healthy emotional release and emotional health is to be able to express ourselves. And once we are able to express, which is the crying or the upset or the getting it all out, then we can name it. "Oh, that was such a hard, frustrating day," or, "Oh, I'm so sad about that. I'm so disappointed," right? We have to express, and then we can name, and then we can feel and all that. So that's where rest happens. And rest, that is where emergence grows. So if we get this opportunity to express and name and feel and eventually reflect, when we get all of those parts of our emotions and we get to see that that's part of the formula here to helping someone grow up, we get to grow up. All right. And I'm just going to paint one more picture for you because I just love this story so much. So Dr. Neufeld tells this story about his grandson, Julian, and someone gave Julian a real pair of cowboy boots, beautiful leather boots. Julian was a toddler, and Neufeld walked in and found him sitting on the floor, struggling to put these boots on by himself. Now, a toddler pulling on a pair of real cowboy boots, that's about as doable as a toddler lacing up ice skates, is what he said. So funny. And so Neufeld says, "Julian, can I help you?" And Julian says, "Nope, do it myself." "Julian, you can't do this by yourself. This is Grandpa's job." "I can do it myself." So Grandpa left him to it and comes back a little, like 30 minutes later. Julian has tears streaming down his little face and the boots are still not on. But here's the whole point of the story. Julian wanted to. It wasn't about whether he could do it. He couldn't. He couldn't. That's fine. That's normal. The point was the desire was there. The energy inside him was saying, I want to do this myself. I want to try. I want to push forward into the world. That wanting, that is emergence. That is the gift nature gives us, and we cannot manufacture that. We cannot pull it out of a child. We can only create the home, the warm, safe, well-fed, well-hugged home where that wanting gets to show up. Notice too, nobody signed Julian up for a cowboy boot class. Nobody worked a cowboy boot skill into his weekly schedule. Julian just wanted, because the wanting lives inside the child. Our job is to protect the conditions where it can show up. So let's come back to Maggie and Logan and the ballet class for a minute, because I know some of you right now are wondering what Maggie decided. And here's what I want you to hear. I don't actually care what Maggie decided about ballet, truly, whether Logan goes back to ballet next month or doesn't. That's not the point. The point is the lens Maggie was using to decide if she does. The lens, it had been, how do I make Logan ready? And I'm hoping we will see that the new lens we talked about became, how do I bring Logan to rest? Because when a parent starts asking that second question, how do I bring my child to rest? Everything starts to shift. We stop signing them up for things out of our anxiety. We start noticing the little moments of connection. We hug longer than they hug. We let bedtime be slow. We let the tears come when the water spills on the pajamas. We stop trying to teach readiness, and we start tending the roots. And then, in their own time, the kids fly. And let me just close with the big idea. If your child is struggling right now, if they're melting down, if they're clingy, if they're saying no to everything, if they're not trying new things, if they're pushing back on an activity you thought would be good for them, I want to invite you to ask yourself a different question. Not what's wrong with my child, not what am I doing wrong, but is my child at rest? Is their cup full? Are they getting enough of me? Not in a guilty, exhausted way. I don't want you to hear that and add one more thing to your to-do list. I mean, in the little moments, at the door when you come home, at bedtime, when they spill water on their shirt, when they refuse the class you really wanted them to love. Are you providing more than they are pursuing? Are you holding them longer than they hold you? Because when you do that, when you hold them close, when you hug them longer than they hug, when you become the sturdy, warm, confident presence they can rest into, something beautiful happens. They fly. Not because you pushed them, not because you signed them up for enough things, but because they were filled up and the fullness had to go somewhere. That's emergence. That's the fruit of rest. That's how it works. For me personally, and I share this because a lot of you know I'm a Baha'i and my faith shapes the way I see parenting, my morning prayers and a little bit of quiet tea time is how I get filled up. If I don't do that, and I'm enjoying it so much with my mom, she's 4 hours from me, and so we meet every morning at 7 on FaceTime, and we say our prayers together, and we have a great chat, and it's so wonderful, But when I don't get that, because I have a meeting early or I have something that makes it so that it would be too hard to meet with her, and if I can't get to my prayers on my own, I am not good. I am not the sturdy, warm presence my husband needs me to be. My clients need me to be. And I meet parents wherever they are, spiritually, whether you pray or meditate, walk, journal, whatever grounds you. The principle is the same. We can't pour from an empty cup. Fill yours, then fill theirs. Watch them fly. If today's episode struck a chord with you and you're sitting there thinking, I want to learn to see my child this way, but I don't know where to start, I would really love to meet you. Come find me at innerlifeparenting.com. I offer a free clarity session where we sit down together. We start the work of learning to see your child through a developmental lens, not through the lens of what's wrong with them, not through the lens of behavior charts or consequences or tricks and tips, but through the lens of who your child is, what they need, and what a parenting practice, just like a spiritual practice or a yoga practice, a parenting practice could look like for your family with real support along the way. That's what this work is. It's a practice. It's a path. And you don't have to walk it alone. Until next time, friend, hold them close, hug them longer than they hug, fill them up, and then watch them fly. I'm Raelee Peirce. This has been Rooted in Relationship. Take good care.